right now, yeah. Okay. So, welcome to the Moon Giveth Her Own Light podcast, or the Fringe of Truth. I don't know if we've decided on a name, but got a lot of good potential ones there.
Yeah.
And
I wasn't quite sure. It's like it's the moon being its own light. That's such a dead giveaway for what the truth is.
Yeah.
You just say that to someone and it can completely change their perspective, get them to go into the Bible. Genesis 1 talks about that, the moon being its own light.
Exactly. I have an image up right now that is a USB connection to the moonlight. Yeah, being the moon giveth her own light, and it is so true. That moon giveth its own cold, putrefying light.
Yeah, putrefying. That's so interesting. So will make things rot. Is that what that means?
Yeah, or chill them out, and then other forms, certain flowers will only come out when they have that moon chill on them. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I know if you're trying to cleanse your witch crystals, you gotta bring that quartz out in the moonlight. Otherwise, you're gonna get some bad juju going.
That's right. Yeah, put them in the windowsill. Cleanse those quartz crystals.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess going into Strangerealm. We both you found him first, and then we haven't talked about him. But he's a really cool dude out of Canada.
I might have to move spots. This connection's yikes.
Yeah, he's a cool dude out of Canada.
Sound good for a second.
Sounds like he's in the auto.
Hello?
Are you still there? I hear you.
Right. No bueno.
You hear me? Hello? Hey?
Hello?
Are you still there? Hold on, let's see what's going on with the connection. Looks like both of us are working. Can you hear me?
I got 3 bars now.
Oh,
I'm gonna just try to reset it. Hello.
Huh. Alright, we'll try that again.
Hmm?
Oh.
Okay, that's part of the tough technical difficulties of being on the middle of
hold
nowhere.
on. Can you hear now? Can you hear?
I can't hear.
Oh, crap. Yo, are you there? Oh, Thea, stop. That's not funny. That's not funny. Please don't do that. Goofball. Alright, I see your text. Are you still here? Wait, hold on. We're having some technical difficulties. Bear with us. I hope you guys are having a great evening, great morning, wherever you're at. Yo, are you back? Can you hear?
Okay, so it says I'm talking.
Yeah, you're talking. I hear you. Can you hear? Hello? I don't know, man. You there? Ah, crap. Trying to talk about Strangerealm here. He's a good dude. Hello? Maybe I could try calling you. Hold on. Boom. Did that work? Are you there?
Oh yeah, it works now.
It works now?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
A bunch of apps on my end. Maybe we should just restart the whole thing.
Yeah, that's fine with me. I can always just cut what's up to this point.
Okay, true. You have editing skills. I know.
Yeah.
What do you use to edit your stuff?
You just use the YouTube editor. I upload the whole thing as is, and then within the first couple minutes, I edit it to where
you chop it off.
I chop it in half, and yeah.
Nice. Okay.
So yeah, I'll get up to the Strangerealm YouTube channel again. I referenced him at the end of my last video, and you showed me him, and he's a great dude out of Ottawa, Canada.
Yeah, and I think that might be my new favorite video by far. I think I love your video on Tufario of you investigating Bill Gates and Melvin Melinda Gates. That one's so hilarious.
Yeah,
But
dude.
also, it's like the heartfelt experience of just dealing with these freakazoids in his gang stalking video. It's like almost 2 hours long. Like every little bit of
Oh
it
yeah,
is so fucking true. It's so relatable.
it is. It is, and he was in the midst of this community, and they were all treating him like crap, and he didn't quite understand their intentions, and now. Thankfully, he's found a way out, and he feels like there's been a few situations where he had near-death experiences. His ex was quite violent, and yeah, we're fortunate to have his testimony, and these videos of his are pretty interesting. He's got some really good ideas.
Yeah. It was like basically over and over he got raped and they were pinning the rape on the victim, which made no sense. It was like they were saying like, oh, you should have been putting out, or it was one thing you were doing wrong. It's just so weird, and it's like it's interesting to get a peer into that degenerate community where it's clearly all about sex. They're not really like monogamous with each other whatsoever. They kind of just go around and have like multiple partners, like up to like 1,000 people. I've heard some of them sleep with.
Yeah, there is one person in my life who I actually worked for last year who was clearly in that community. We worked out in the Berkshires, and he used to complain that there weren't any gay people around, but the crosswalks are literally rainbows. Like, not even kidding. In this big epicenter of town, the crosswalks are all rainbows, and most people that like man the shops are dressed in very like colorful, vibrant. I don't know what you want to call it. Like in nature, poison dart frogs, like kind of like they're kind of like edgy, I guess you would say, and a lot of them I think are having lots of sex often, and it makes their behavior coarse. And he would talk about sodomy all the time, like it was mentioned every couple hours at least. And
Yeah.
and
So gross.
and yeah, so being on the outside of that, he's since created a group for that area, and you get to see some of their posts, and it's weird how it changes when I was younger and just completely in the like, oh, everybody's great, everybody is doing their best mentality. I just thought of this as like I don't have this condition or I don't have this feeling, but other people do, and I accept that. But then again, but then
I don't think there's that thing where like, oh, you're just born different. I don't think that's a thing. What God says these homosexuals are they're dogs. They're
right. But then it's weird because
things that will harm anything and everything.
Yeah, but it's weird because we're both, us and Hans, and it sounds like even maybe this guy, even Strangerealm maybe perhaps as well, before he pursued his lifestyle, like we were with Swires.
Oh, true.
So it's weird. Yeah, it's weird. So like I
think it's more gay for them because they knew what they were and they were attaching to us. Like we didn't know at all.
But listening to his testimony, yeah, like hearing how he was being treated, it made a lot of sense. Like I wasn't ever in a Martin relationship, and yeah, like hearing that from the outside, it makes a lot of sense. It's what it looked like it would have been like, and I don't know. There's a lot of adult men I look at, and they seem to greatly enjoy hanging out with their bro friends instead of their wives, and it's weird. It's a very weird world we live in.
Yeah.
And yeah, his videos on drag queens and how they mock women, what they're doing, why they're doing it. I mean, the fact that they're envious, we know that. But to dig in deeper and really parse out just the evil aspect of it. I mean, these people are envious. They really hate women, and you have women who are generally speaking softer, cushier, out on the streets and in public, feeling insecure because they're around these people that are pretending to be women, gawking at them, kind of giving them intimidating stares. And then also what it does is it kind of plays up a woman so that a man might see these people and then expect his or think that maybe his wife should be more like, I don't know, showing more of herself or being more risque because it's so normal. And
they're so provocative all the time. And of course, I like the demon component of that, where he's like saying these are people overcome with a female demon, and they're constantly trying to find younger people to part even more of their demon to, like, always going to drag time story hour, always going to spiritually naive, being in public as much as they can, where children can't avoid them. It's like so disgusting, and like certain parents will like bring their children to that, and like that definitely is the clearest example of demonic possession. I think is that whole thing. Yeah, that really made a lot of sense to me.
It makes a lot of sense. The Nephilim trying to find a host through all of this and continually going after the youngest of the breed and whatnot, cloning. I don't know if that's real, but still, from a sexual perspective, targeting people, working around them to make them ultimately consent to their bad behavior. I think a lot of, like, if we were to look back at our lives, I want to do a testimony video like you guys did because your guys are so touching and relatable. And
yeah, I'd love to hear that.
Yeah. And just looking at our lives from this examination and seeing if people kind of came in out of nowhere and were saying a lot of things, and if you got passed around and they, like he was saying, if they happened to know other people and it seemed weird that they knew other people that you knew, and yeah, just like they were like kind of intentionally telling you things that, but unless you had known their intentions, you would never guess they would do things like that. And it is strange to think back on all those experiences and. But it's also very helpful, and I think a good way to come into this community is to share what literally has happened to you and the psyops that you've experienced and the strange clown-like behavior that you've seen.
Mm-hmm. I want to bring up an interesting project I've been researching recently, and it's the Trinity, kind of going into that, seeing if there's actually some sense behind that or if there's not. So an example I'd like to give for that is, unless we're not, if we're finished talking about this, an example I'd like to give for that is like the whole burning bush. Just because God was speaking through the burning bush doesn't mean. Actually, fucking never mind. I've been going down this rabbit hole of if the Trinity is real or not. I might come back with that next episode because that's a complex one to talk about. And I don't really want to be picking sides on that. It's so incredibly hard to like know the nature of God. Yeah. And I've been reading a couple verses about it that kind of made sense to me, which was interesting. Something that translations apparently get wrong is in the beginning was logos. So the word is apparently logos. In the beginning was the word. In John 1, it talks about that. And then later on, Jesus says, and the logos which ye hear is not mine, but the Father's which sent me. So it's interesting. I don't know what I'm going to claim on that this next episode, but I'm going to research that quite a bit. It's an interesting one because Paul talks about it a lot, and I don't necessarily agree with Paul whatsoever.
From an image-based perspective, and all I've heard of it growing up, is it sort of this in-person, physically felt, tangible acknowledgement of the Holy Ghost? And it's like, yes, like it is so deeply affecting and something that you can only look at from afar, kind of.
For logos?
Like what you started with, the burning bush aspect? Maybe for logos.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and take this with a grain of salt, just because the burning bush was speaking through, or God was using the burning bush to speak through it, doesn't mean it was necessarily God in the burning bush. Like, we shouldn't be worshiping burning bushes.
Right,
that doesn't mean they're God.
Yeah.
And perhaps Jesus is just like the messenger. Like he says over and over, that verse I was just saying before, and the word which ye hear is not mine, but the Father's which sent me. So this whole time, Jesus is kind of just speaking what the Father wants him to say.
Yeah.
And that means he's the Son of God, but that doesn't mean necessarily that he's God. But at the same time, it gets so convoluted. At the same fucking time, the second thing Jesus says in Matthew is, do not tempt the Lord thy God. So maybe he's tempting the Father in a way by tempting Jesus. I don't know.
It could be. Yeah. You're not supposed to do such things. And the burning bush reminds me of the Rastafarian religion, and maybe that was taken literally. They've worshipped the burning bush.
Oh, really? The Rastafarian, what's that?
Well, like the pot smoking Rastafarian,
Oh yeah.
green, yellow,
what's
red.
his name? Bob Marley.
Bob Marley, green, yellow, red. Yeah. That was an interesting video back in the day on German videos. The green, yellow, red. The like people in camera light. He profiled Bob Marley specifically, and how like they seem to turn into like leopards, like they got all spotted and or even like kind of like scaly looking. The way that the light was hitting them. Yeah, it was a really trippy video. But I mean, we're gonna see everything. So this is the beginning. I didn't see a lot of this stuff, or maybe I did. I just kind of like filtered it out when I was younger. But now it seems like it's all clear.
It does. It seems like a lot of things I'm beginning to understand. I'm gonna feed through a couple connections I made throughout the past 2 weeks.
Okay.
There's this anime show that had a panda in it, and when the panda got hurt, it would show a bunch of like plushy stuff coming out, like cotton coming out of it. That was the wounds of it. And that same panda would also turn into a gorilla when he was in his like final form. It was ridiculous.
Wow. So maybe there is some like mascot hierarchical thing where like wearing the gorilla suit is much more difficult than the panda suit or something. Pandas are like
true.
Like
true.
To actually get to wear a gorilla suit takes a long time for this like quote unquote profession.
Yeah. It's like being a gorilla. You gotta be walking on stilts a lot of the time. And like that seems more complicated. But like a panda, you kind of just sit there and be lazy all the time.
Yeah, I mean the chimps, the orangutans. I mean, it has to be these Cirque du Soleil types that are recruited, and then like, this is like families upon families of people that are into making the suits, and then also performing in them.
Yeah, it's interesting. Christ the Divider. That's one of his titles, and I find that so interesting. It's like this whole time I've been breaking friendship after friendship apart, but eventually I've been getting better friendships where like people actually in my circle that know things. Like I'm kind of getting to talk to Spiritual Realm a bit, and he seems like such a great guy, and getting to have these conversations with you where we're actually talking about things that matter. It's such a difference. Like if I just stuck with my old friends from before, I just have to pretend that I didn't know all this stuff and do a bunch of tongue flicking around them just to say what I know. I don't know. It's so weird. Like it's been so great. All of Hans's work, he's made this community for people like us where we probably would have never found each other. Like what's guest speakers say? Like you're more likely to find like a chicken with teeth than a real man.
Yeah.
Thankfully, out of like the 12,000 subscribers, we finally found a couple people that seem to be real men.
Yeah. Yeah, there's old Hans videos I search through and hear him talk about people, and I'm like, where are they? Where is this like, what was it? This like Navy SEAL guy that all of his friends stopped saying happy birthday to him once he quote unquote found out about trannies. And it's sad because I'm like, who is Hans also talking to that we need to like, include in some other way or like some other form that I'm not aware of that. Yeah, it's amazing that we found each other in all this.
It's like you kind of attract to like I found you not through Hans or anything like that. You were just making your own videos, and something about I looked up Free Martin men, and you were one of the results for that for some reason. And I looked that up again then after, and I couldn't find the same search term. But I still remembered some of your comments on like German videos and other stuff like that. It's so rewarding actually having people to talk to about this stuff versus not having anyone at all. Like it's so ridiculous.
Yeah, there's a commenter in German videos group community, I suppose. Her name's Wheat, and she commented a while back about how it's great to finally have this healing community because it's so rare to find. Even if it's a comment section on these videos where we're all seeing these same things, it is helpful, and it did seem like before we didn't have it.
Keep going. Okay, yeah, it makes me feel like I'm not alone. Like the whole like schizophrenia diagnosis. Like I've been told like I was watching Hans's video about parasites, and this girl was saying maybe I don't feel so good. It's like, well, maybe one possibility is parasites. And then later on, I was confronted by 5 members of the staff, and they're like, "You said there was parasites in the brains. You said there's worms in brains. You are going on antipsychotics." And I was like, that's not what I said at all. And they just kept gaslighting me over and over and over. And I didn't want to go back to jail, so I complied. But it's just so odd. And the whole mental health thing, hearing that from Spiritual Realm, that I'm not alone in that, because it's just so weird. having to go everywhere, and I'm on medications. Praise God that He protects me from that, but it's just not fun.
Yeah. Oh, spiritual realm? Do you mean Strangerealm?
Oh, Strangerealm. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. He really cut through to the core. I think. I think he's opened up some windows that we weren't seeing because of how open he is. That's what you need. It's like you need somebody to bear themselves to really continue this work, and see things in a new light and see what's really important.
Yeah.
Like right.
Yeah, and like the psyops they pull, it's so healing to hear other people talk about psyops, and it's like, okay, so that thing definitely did happen that I experienced.
Yeah.
Like I remember specifically, there was a point when my toilet didn't work in jail, and I had to shit through the sink, which was terrible. And
God.
It's also a good experience because I learned I really got to salivate my food more and chew a lot more.
Yeah.
Trying to push that shit through the drain.
That's a roundabout way to learn that.
But it was one of the psyops was that, and every time I do that, it'd be like there's people screaming every time I did it. It was weird. It happened probably 10 to 20 times. That same experience where there'd be screaming as soon as I would do that. It was just so odd. The amount of like the psyops get weird in jail. You'll get your extra dose of drugs to make sure you're asleep while they go into your cell. It's like, what the fuck are they doing to my cell? And then they write stuff all over the walls and say weird stuff about you being like Jesus. It's weird. It's the most bizarre thing ever.
Yeah.
it was like a torture chamber. I'm pretty sure it was like I don't know how to explain it.
Like Martians. I mean, like what's his name? LP's. No, what was it? Oh, Company Flow. This is the album cover. I always think of when I think of what your experience is with them in prison. And it's what is it? Fun Crusher Plus. Oh, dude. It's these little orange imps. They're it's kind of like what Hans said regarding Reddit, the little orange robot, where they came through the underrealm or whatever it is down below, and they've come up above, and they all have their headphones in, and they're listening into each other, and they're all reporting on you.
Yeah.
And it's.
I remember specifically. There was a guy exactly like you were saying. He was monitoring my cell, and I managed to pick out where the microphone was, and I started just getting a cup and like blowing bubbles in it. It was totally crazy, but I was blowing bubbles in it right next to where the microphone was in my room, and he couldn't hear what the person next to him was saying. Like they were asking him questions. Like he was like, "I can't hear you. This guy's doing weird stuff." He was like listening in onto what I was saying and whatnot. If I made a noise, they made sure to make sure I wouldn't get food that day or something like that. That's what they would threaten.
Oh my god!
And the worst part for sure was like it was like fucking insanely cold. I was in a very cold area to begin with, and I was constantly in my blanket in the corner of my room, just trying to avoid the AC and using every breakfast meal I got to plug up the ventilation because that's what everyone else was doing too.
Oh my god! How was the food?
It was soy. So if I do it again, I'd say I'd have a soy allergy because then they can't feed you that. But it was terrible. Some people get it worse. Some people get it way worse. So maybe it was fine.
That's so weird. How do they determine that? Who gets worse food? This behavior?
Well, you say you're allergic to something, then they have to, because then they might get sued. So you just. And if you're on suicide watch, they make sure you get like really really bad food. So you want to get off that as soon as possible.
Holy crap! They want to egg it on. They want to ensure that you do die with bad food.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Well, they give you more like I guess healthy stuff, which is celery and carrots. And celery, it actually has negative calories, so it doesn't eat you up at all. You have to stream out the celery in order for it to like be able to be consumed. With caloric intake, you let the water kind of come out of it by straining it out. It was weird, but the whole time, my whole plan was like, okay, I gotta act crazy here, because then in this next stage of my legal battle, it'll be better for me if I act crazy. So that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
I pretended to be insane by like this is also what David did to avoid one thing at one point. He just foamed out of the mouth and I was acting like a lunatic. That's pretty much what I was doing, but like kind of on another level where I was kind of like biting into myself and like jerking off as soon as there was a camera in my room or something like that, biting into myself while jerking off, and it worked out. I got what I needed for the legal realm, thank goodness.
Well, yeah. I mean, even if you weren't doing it intentionally and it was some sort of psychotic craze, it makes sense given all that they did to you. I mean, forcing you
Yeah,
to go
true.
poop in the
The
toilet.
styles made it kind of easy to
Yeah, they
act
did.
like that.
Yeah, that's intense hazing, and I wonder how close it does air to fraternity hazing. I didn't get too close to fraternities for good reason. I think
Oh,
obviously
yeah,
they're gonna
that's
push
tough.
me out. There was one fraternity that was kind of friendly at the campus that I went to out in Colorado, and um, outside of that, it felt very weird. Like there were like certain echelons, like certain guys had more girl like swires. It's very bizarre. But I wonder, yeah, how close that kind of hazing aired to your experience in prison. Like, is that just like Masonic hazing, or did you receive like just?
Well, it actually probably was pretty fucking brutal hazing. Probably worse than that because I lost a lot of my hearing. It was so loud in my cell where there was like it felt like there was like a kick drum, a concrete kick drum above my cell, constantly ramming into the top of the cell, and it was. I had toilet paper and water. I constantly had to replace the toilet paper and water if I had any in my ears as much as I could, or reuse it just to block out some sound because it was. I'm pretty sure I'm like handicapped from my hearing, so that's
Oh
why
my
I interrupt
god.
too much.
Yeah, I know Mullen's great for ear infections. I don't for increasing auditory though. I don't know. We have to look into that. Maybe some sort of mushroom. I would imagine. Actually heard
Oh,
psilocybin mushrooms to help with hearing. They definitely do.
really?
Yeah, because you can better associate. I'm able to delineate sounds. I remember there was this morning where I was watching my cat going into the vent, and he was clearly thumbing at the vent, almost as if there were little people living down there. He was pointing at it and like very, very characteristically. And then later on, I was listening to the birds outside, and they were having some sort of like early morning roll call. The older birds were a little louder chirps, and the younger ones were pittering in, like just like letting their names be heard. It was amazing. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, I think that like those mushrooms definitely help with that. So definitely something to look into and see like yeah if there is a discernible amount of damage in your hearing, or hey maybe it does help if it's done in microdoses.
Yeah. Well, there's so much healing stuff out there. I'm currently on nicotine. That's why it might sound like I'm racing a million miles per hour. I didn't know it was how do you say it? Neotropic?
Nootropic, yeah, enhances your cognitive thought. You sound more intelligent. You have quicker discernment on things. And if I gotta ask too, do you use caffeine? Do you drink coffee?
I'll drink it if I see a pot of it, but sometimes it's not a good combination because then you have to shit like crazy.
It's not a good combination, but yeah, because you have to shit like crazy. But yeah, but yeah, the thought process is so rapid and quick. There's a lot of mathematicians that basically were on Adderall throughout their career or speed, and
Mm-hmm.
because that's what
Yeah,
they
well
value.
that's
They value that being able to discern really quickly, being completely locked in, and then
true.
with nicotine, it does seem like I would go out to parties with people, before I was aware of all this stuff, and go out to the veranda or the porch, wherever on the outside of the party, and there'd always be the most wise jester smoking a cigarette, asking if you wanted one. Like it was such a
Yeah,
like routine, it's such a religion, or not a religion, it's such a routine to see that, and there is a good. It is important to note. I just think it's the way that it's unhealthy, like all the stuff they add to it. So if you are gonna use
yeah,
nicotine,
to
like
make it super addictive, so you keep buying their flavor versus buying someone else's.
yeah, like if you were to smoke it out of a pipe or have it nice and clean, and like yeah, like that would be much better. There's better ways to do it. It's hard, but it definitely does enhance your cognitive speed, and yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, I know just in the realm of sports being fake, which there's a great channel I think you'd love to check out. I found it from Vogue. Hans Wormhat was talking about it. It's Jack Sempe, and he talks about sports being fake and goes into that pretty particularly.
Okay.
And something I know about esports in general is everyone's on Adderall. Like you don't have a chance to compete unless you're on Adderall yourself. Like, it's insane.
It's Jack Senpei, all one word.
There's a space.
Oh, Jackson Pei. Oh.
Jack Senpei, Sempay.
JACK and then
Sempay.
Sempay. Jack Senpei.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I love his biking video because it's literally mechanical doping. Like they have motors in their bikes.
Oh
and this
yeah,
guy,
Hans did a video. I saw the biking. Oh my god, dude.
Yeah, you saw that one. That's insane. It's like he falls off the bike and then the bike keeps fucking going afterwards.
Yeah, dude.
It's insane.
It's amazing too how this is like regulated. This is like some of the biggest push for television. Really, like growing up, everybody in my neighborhood was following sports teams, like at least one. It's pretty wild.
Jackson Pay here.
And they don't really get off of it either. It's like a lifetime of watching this stuff. And I don't know how you do that because my dad, like, he's big. He worked at ESPN. He knows it's all fake, and he still watches it.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, do you watch any sports whatsoever?
Not at all. I've really stopped. I'm trying to think of the last sporting event I watched intentionally. It's been a long time. Well, another guy that I was looking into, Zachary Hubbard, I referenced him before, was just talking about that too, how like they're rigged with coding and whatnot. But then there are some amazing videos where the guy who's going to be tackled, who just caught the football, puts his thumb up in the air as if to go over him. There's just such obvious examples of it and how they really are easy to rig. I mean, you can throw a baseball and then it's only like 57, 60 miles per hour, but then on the screen it reads as 100. And that's like, you threw a meatball. I've seen that so many times where they throw a meatball and they say it's 100 and the guy hits a home run. And then with football, I mean, really any sport, the referees can just call some bullshit anytime.
Yeah, and then willy-nilly. And the crowd gets so upset because they already know it's rigged and it's just the referees deciding.
Yeah, it's sad. And I kind of is at essence, it's this ridiculous worship of competition, I think. It leads to this cheating and like where it's so rigged that you can't even watch it seriously. It's just, I guess, purely for entertainment or just the show. It's not genuine.
Well, they're like when the two teams that are rigged for success go against each other. What happens then? That's their mindset, I imagine.
Yeah.
It's I fucking hate sports. I've never enjoyed it. Like,
it's
even
garbage.
when I was in jail, I couldn't really care enough for it, even if there's nothing to do.
Yeah, dude.
It's so boring. It's the amount of like drugs they're on too, and they have like their gloves, which probably have magnets on them, so they can like catch the football easier.
Yeah,
it's all rigged.
It's all rigged and ridiculous in a circus act. And playing them as a kid, it felt kind of gross too. It felt like I was only doing it because my dad was so heavily invested in them that to have a relationship with my father, I had to play some sports. Because I would find myself like I made a comic of it where, before I didn't know about orangutans. I made a comic where like I was the orangutan named Samson, and I went to like this. I came out of the jungle and went to this baseball game. Like didn't know anything. Like hit the ball. It went far, but I just like turned around and did the bases backwards and then like left and didn't care. And it just felt good. It was like this exercise of all these years of going to sporting events and not giving a shit and just kind of being like, yay, like empty.